What's up, guys? This is Chimeze with Stack. Today we'll be looking at how to build a static blog using Nuxt.js and Contentful. Nuxt.js is a framework for building server-side rendered view applications, and Contentful is a content infrastructure platform. Nuxt.js has a feature for generating static sites, which I think most people aren't aware of. So in this video, we'll see how to combine Nuxt.js static site generator feature and Contentful to build a static blog. So let's get started. We will start by creating a Nuxt.js application. For this, we'll make use of the Vue CLI. Then we'll give our app a name, say Nuxt blog. We'll stick with the defaults. And let's seed into our new project. Then we need to install the app dependencies. While this is installing, let's head over to Contentful. You will need to sign up if you don't have accounts with them already. I already have an account, so I will just go ahead and log in. And I will log in with GitHub. Once we are logged in, we need to create a space on Contentful. A space is a place where we keep all the content related to a single project. So let's do that. We'll give the space a name. And we want to create an empty space, which we will fill with our own content. Once the space has been created, next we need to create a content type. We'll be creating a content type of blog post since we are building a blog. So we'll call it post. We can give it a description of blog post. Then we'll create it. Next, we need to add the feeds which the post content type can have. We'll be adding 3 feeds. So the first feed will be a text, which will be the title of the post. It will be a short text. So let's create and configure it. On the validation tabs, we'll mark it as required, then save. The next feed is also a text, which will be the slug of the post. A short text, then we'll create and configure. Under validation, we set it as required and unique. Then under appearance, we set it as slug, then we save. The last feed will be the content, which will also be a text. And it's a long text. Create and configure. Under validation, to be required, then we save. Then we save. With the fields added, we can begin to add some post content. Let's add a new post. Hello world. Let's publish. Let's create another post. We can make use of Markdown. The bold. And this should be in italic. So let's publish. So now we have two sample posts which we can work with. Let's head back to our Nuxt.js application and start building it out. The dependencies are done installing. Let's start the app to make sure everything is working as expected. Cool, everything is working as expected. We'll leave the app running and open the project in a new tab. Let's open the project in our preferred code editor. I will be using VS Code. To style our blog, we'll be using Boomer CSS framework. We will be referencing it on a CDN. So let's head over to the Boomer website. Overview. Let's grab this. We will add it in the Nuxt.js config file, which is nuxt.config.js. We'll add it within the link object. Style sheet. Then href. Paste this in. Give it a save. With that added, we can update our layout to make use of Boomer. Let's get rid of all this. Then we'll add a hero section here. To save us some typing, let's head over to the Boomer site and copy the markup. Copy this, then paste this in. Then we'll add in a class to have the text centered. We'll update it to the blog title with a link to the home page. The Nuxt blog into the home page. We will update this too. Before we view our changes, let's also update the landing page we are shown by default, which is inside the pages directory. So get rid of all this. Let's get rid of all this as well. Let's just put something. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Now we can view our changes, as you can see. Now let's start fleshing out our blog. We'll start with the blog post listing. For that, we'll make use of this index.vue file. So let's update the template. Then we'll display the title of each post with a link to view the post. We'll look through over the post. Then we link to the post. Then we'll bind the link to the post slug. You will notice that the actual values are inside a fields object. That is how Contentful structures its response. Let's move on to the JavaScript section. We will be making use of Contentful JavaScript SDK, so we need to install it. npm install Contentful. While we are here, let's also install a Nuxt.js module that will allow us to use environment variables at nuxt.js/.env. Once that is installed, we will create a plugin of the Contentful SDK. We'll create it within the plugins directory. We'll call it contentful.js. First, we'll pull in the package. Next, we'll create a Contentful client. Let's create client. We'll pass in the ID of our Contentful space and an access token, which we'll create shortly. Lastly, we'll export the client. Module.export. So let's update this. This will be process.env.ctf_space_id. Then this will be process.env.ctf_access_token. We are getting these values from an environment variable, which we are here to create. So let's create it. We will create it in the project root directory. .env. We'll grab this, paste it over. Do the same for this. Paste it over. Now let's head over to Contentful to get these values. This is the ID of the space we created. So let's grab this. Paste it here. Next, we'll generate an API key. We'll give the API key a name. Then save. Now let's copy the access token for the content delivery API. We'll paste it in. We can close this out on this. Next, we need to register the plugin inside the Nuxt.js config file. We'll pass the path to the plugin. Plugins/contentful. Let's also register the .env module we put in. Since this module is a wrapper around the .env package, we need to require the .env package also. .config. Now we can start to make use of the plugin. First, we need to pull it in. Plugins/contentful. Client. Since we'll be fetching our data from Contentful directly, we'll make use of the async data method. Then we'll make use of the contentful client dot get entries. We'll pass in the content type we want, which we define as post. This returns a promise, so we can hook in into the then method. And return post as entries dot items. If there's an error, we catch the error, and we simply console log the error. What we are doing here is that we are getting all the entries from our contentful space where the content type is post. Then we assign the data that is returned to a post object. This post object can be used as we will normally use a component data, as you can see from our markup. Lastly, let's add a page title. Latest post. Now, once we visit our app, we should see a list of blog posts. We are getting an error. That means we've screwed some things up. Let's see. Oh, sorry, this should be Nuxt.js. Compile. Let's give it a refresh. We can see a list of blog posts we created on Contentful. Now let's move on to displaying a single post. For that, we'll create a new view file and we'll call it _slug.view. Nuxt.js will generate routes for each file in the pages directory. So a file with an underscore will be treated as a dynamic route. In this case, we have a dynamic route that accepts a post slug as a parameter. This will be similar to the index file. So to save us some typing, let's copy the code for the index file and paste it in. Then we'll get rid of this. Then we'll add in a paragraph with a class of subtitle is -6. This will contain a link to go back to the blog homepage. To the homepage, then we have back to blog home. Next, we display the title of the post. This will be post.fields.title. Lastly, we display the content. For the JavaScript section, we pass in a params object. Then we get the entries where the slug feed matches the slug parameter. Params dot slug. Then this will be post. Then we'll get the first one. Though the slug feed is unique, but since the getEntries method returns a collection of entries, so we need to make sure we are getting just one value. For the page title, instead of defining an object, we'll call a head method that will return an object containing the page title. So this will be this dot post dot feed dot title. Now let's test this out. Now we can view a single post. Let's go back to the home page. Let's view this other post. You will remember that we'll use Markdown while creating this post, as you can see. So we need to make sure that the Markdown are properly rendered. For that, we will install another Nuxt.js module, which is called Markdown 8. So npm install at nuxt.js/markdown 8. With that installed, let's add it to the Nuxt.js config file. We'll add it inside the modules array. Then we inject the module by setting injected to true. Now we can make use of the module. Let's update the single post template. Get rid of this. Then make use of the HTML directive. Because we injected the Markdown module, we can make use of a $md object and call a render method on it. Then we'll pass in the post content. If we test our app now, the Markdown should be properly rendered. As you can see, we are basically done with our blog app. What is left is to generate a static site for the blog. But we can't do that yet, since by default, Nuxt.js generator will ignore dynamic routes. Luckily for us, there is a way around it. Inside the config file, we define a generate object and define a routes method. Then we retrieve all the entries from our contentful space with a type of post. Then we loop through each entries. And return an object containing the routes for each entry. Entry.field.slug. Then we'll pass in a payload, which will be entry. Let's not forget to pull in the Contentful plugin. Lastly, let's update the slug view. Pass in an error and a payload. We will check if there's a payload. If there is, we'll set the post as the payload. Otherwise, we'll fetch the post from Contentful. Now, we should be able to generate static site for our blog. npm run generate. I cannot find module. Plugins / contentful. Let's see. Okay, this should be dot. Let's give it a retry. Another error. Line 52. Let's see. Line 52. Oh, this should be client. Let's give it a retry once more. Yeah, our static blog has been generated. This will create a new dist folder that will contain our static files. That is it for this video. We've seen how to build a blog with Nuxt.js and Contentful, and also generate a static site of our blog. In the next video, we will look at how to deploy our static blog to Netlify. See you then, and thanks for watching.